the question, can you have it all? And, there's ways to be able to leverage yourself in that direction. But he talked about one of the biggest mistakes that most entrepreneurs make is that they're not clear on the next level. Right. And so how do you understand the level you're at to get to that next level? And it really gets to a point. And, we hit on this hard, in fact, how KT was even born, right? Kitchen Table was even born, was listening to the Who Not How book from Dan Sullivan. I mean, literally listening to the open remarks in the opening dialogue with Dan Sullivan and Ben, as they were kind of navigating in that first chapter. He just talked about it, right? How many people that have been consecutively, to all of his sessions over 3 decades. And I was like, man, we got to do that. And that's the direction we went. But it's also a place to what you need to do to get from where you're at to that next level. And then, obviously there's another level after that and another level after that, but it's all about leverage because you can't do it by yourself.
And the truth of the matter is most people don't know, if we're honest with ourselves, man, Coach Burt talks about this in his book, in Prey Drive. He's like, you don't necessarily have to know what Z looks like when you're at A.
Right.
Let's just focus on what B looks like. What is that? What is that next best step that you can take in order to, because your journey is going to unfold as you go. Now, there are some people who have this completely mapped out. Like, they're at 5 years old, they knew they were going to be the president of the United States, right? And they actually end up going. But there were a lot of steps that happened along the way, a lot of right things that they had to do in order for certain opportunities and to open up and people that they had to meet along the way. So they had to decide, what rooms do I need to be in? What type of person do I need to be? What are some of the things that I can't do in order to position myself to be able to be in the best position later on, even if I don't know exactly what that looks like. And so that's one of the conversations, that's kind of the thread of the conversation today that I wanted to really touch on, is that idea of leveraging to level up. We understand that there is a level up that has to be made. As small business owners, the truth is, man, so many of us as small business owners, all we do is focus on like what the day brings. It's like the tail wagging the dog, right? Most agents, as you know, especially agents, wake up and they have no idea what the day is going to bring. They have no idea on what they should be doing for the day. They just let the day come to them and they just react. And it's a very reactionary position. But what it ends up doing is pulling them, when we allow the day to just happen to us and we respond to it or react to it, it actually ends up pulling us into so many different directions that we end up spreading ourselves thin. And this is why, I'm speaking on a lot of stages these days. And I was a keynote speaker at the South Carolina Regional Rally. I also spoke in New York just recently, just last week, actually. And when I'm talking to agents and I'm asking, how's business? The market is what the market is what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's still opportunities there. Homes are still being bought and sold.
It's still happening. You still got top agents who are still going to be top agents. You still got a lot of the agents who have been doing the things, still doing the things. However, what I'm finding is that the thread is similar across all of these conversations. Many of them are almost burnt out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of agents who are just trying to do it all, as opposed to, they're trying to go wide as opposed to digging deeper first. Mm-hmm. And so what I liken it to is, when you open a restaurant, one of the greatest examples of a small business owner is a restaurateur. But the restaurant owner, many times they actually end up creating a job, right? They didn't create a business that works itself. They created a job for themselves. They got to be there every day. They're the ones unlocking the door and locking the door up. They're the ones who are counting the funds. They're the ones sometimes who's stepping into as the cashier. They're also the janitor. They're also having to wear the CEO hat. And a lot of the times it's because of the lack of leverage. Leveraging the right resources, the right tools, the right capital, the right people is what takes us from being a small business owner to a big business owner to that next level. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And, like you said, going from, where you're at to where you want to go and being able to map out at least the next level, right? Like you said, A to B, what is that? What's required? And the question always becomes, who do I have to become in order for me to get to that next level, right? For that next step to be true. And it's like, okay, what do I need to, improve upon? More importantly, what do I need to let go? And that's that constant, SWOT analysis. Hey, these are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. These are the opportunities I have. And these are the real threats. How do I, put more emphasis on my strengths and then go create leverage to, complement or offset my weaknesses? And it's the, there's like two school of thoughts, but I think with the business side, it's the Gary V approach, right? Triple down on your strengths. The David Goggins approach, just improve your weaknesses. But I think that's more on the personal development side of things. Whereas Correct. When we're speaking, specifically around business, it's like leaning in. And Dan Martell talks about in Buy Back Your Time is like, we want to get into the quadrant that we're doing the thing that makes me the most amount of money because that's what I'm the best in the world at, but right. also gives me energy, right? So like it's the unique ability exercise. Remember we talked about that, Mike, that, the difference between unique and exceptional is just really one thing. It's like, does it give me energy or does it take energy away? Yes. Or not even give me energy at all, right? That's an exceptional, a capability and resource that we have in ourselves. But it's like, dude, I just need to spend time on what I'm the best in the world at, that makes me the most amount of money, that gives me energy, right? Like for me, like trying to engage and sell somebody into a coaching program, like robs me of energy and I'm not freaking good at it. But sitting here on you, having conversations, coaching, diagnosing, pointing out, blind spots, helping navigate terrains, I can do that all day, every day. Right. And so I think that's just where you find it. And you're like, oh shit. Okay. Well, I'm not good at this, but how do I create that leverage?